Okay, so it seems like we had a bit of news on the CAD, and holy crap, the Canadian dollar is making a serious move. Welcome back to the channel today, guys. We are covering the CAD and the news that we had this morning, which was higher than expected CPI numbers. So we're going to take a look at a couple currency pairs. Of course, I am a little bit biased towards my EURCAD position, but let's come back to this in a moment. Let's talk about dollar CAD, which, oh my goodness, you guys, look at that move. That's a significant dip here to the downside looking at EURCAD. And the question, dollar CAD. And the question is this thing time to reverse, or is this just the start of a bigger bleed out? Today's video sponsor is Moomoo, and a big thank you to them for supporting the content. And with that said, let's take a look at their awesome platform, both for the phone view and for desktop. One thing that they have that I think is really revolutionary is the institutional tracking feature on their software. For example, we could take a look at Berkshire Hathaway, which is Warren Buffett's company, and see what they're holding. It's kind of a really cool feature to be able to just scroll through and see all the different stocks and holdings and what makes up Warren Buffett's portfolio in the institutional tracking software available with Moomoo's application. So for example, you can see Warren Buffett's holding things like Apple, Bank of America, American Express, Coca-Cola, all sorts of cool companies, and you can kind of go through his portfolio as well as many other major groups like, for example, Soros Capital. You can go through here, see all the different holdings that they've got there. Another really cool feature that Moomoo has is the AI monitor. Check this out. So we can actually scroll through and see what their artificial intelligence based software is scanning in terms of markets. You've got things like Twitter and Apple and Netflix in here, and looking at all sorts of different hot topics, hot names, and keeping up to date with what they're looking at. I want to encourage you guys to check out Moomoo. Use the link down below in the description to get up to 5 free stocks, up to $3,500 worth of stocks for free. Again, use that link, check it out, and thank you to Moomoo for supporting the content. Well, let's take a look at the higher time frames and get an idea of what's going on here. So again, we had major news that caused the Canadian dollar to strengthen, and it does seem like a little bit of dollar weakness is coming in as well. But anyways, looking at dollar CAD here, we've actually broken through structure big time. So there was this big level of support that did not hold. You can see buyers were not able to hold that. And for me, my personal opinion, looking at something like this with a lower high inbound here, the dollar CAD looks bearish. Now, how do you trade it? What's the idea? What do we do with this information, Nick? Well, I think that, target one here was right here, right? That was the major spot where the market probably wanted to roll over after finding resistance. Number one target was a move back to 1.2548. But if you're watching dollar CAD and you're looking for trade setups, how do you get involved and where could this thing go next? Well, I would say this is probably a pretty good target location if sellers are going to stay strong, where we could see dollar CAD head to. And by the time you see this video, maybe it's already been there. But for setups, here's the thing. Let's draw in some fibs. We're going to draw a fib here, and please note that I'm drawing this assuming that this is the bottom. I'm not, confident that it is, but let's just assume for a second that it is. You have some 38.2% retracements levels coming in, and you have a key spot on the chart. If we look left, I would say that a potential entry on the sell side would be a retest of resistance, as well as that 38.2. Now, again, you may have to redraw your fibs when you get closer or when this video comes out. Perhaps this is the low. Either ways, I can't really short here, but I can definitely look at potential pullback ideas. So if you're looking at dollar CAD and you're saying, okay, I want to be a member of this sell-off, I want to join the ride. Well, of course, please remember, this is not financial advice. I'm just sharing my personal opinions, but I'm bearish on it only if we get a retest. So beautiful downside, and looks like it wants to continue. Those are thick red bars. That's like a thick boy right there.
Damn, boy, he's thick. Boy, that's a thick ass boy.
Anyways, that's a thick boy right there, and it seems like this thing wants to continue. And again, I'm not just going off of a hunch, but let's go look at some CAD things on the EdgeFinder. So if I look at the dollar CAD, for example, we've got sort of a neutral reading. So there's not too much here in terms of, a bias, but there are some other currency pairs. So even though I don't love dollar CAD on the short side, we have kind of a neutral signal from the A1 EdgeFinder, which, by the way, you can find a link down below in the description if you would like a copy of this. But I want to look at some other pairs, and I'm going to give a sneak peek to what is coming on the EdgeFinder. So if I actually go here into the additional pages, you'll see that these are hidden pages. We're going to look at EURCAD, and this is why I shorted the pair. Take a look here. If we jump into this for a second, short bias on EURCAD. We'll take a look at EURCAD in just a moment, but negative score of 5. COT data is kind of mixed, so we'll ignore that for a second. Interest rate, positive towards CAD. So we have a strong bias towards the Canadian dollar as they did raise interest rates recently. So that's a check mark. Retail sentiment, the crowd seems to be going against the CAD on this with a huge long position open on the EURCAD. So we're going to go ahead and bias towards the short side, at least I am based on this. Seasonality this month tends to be negative for the EURCAD. Trend reading, okay, cool. So now that gives me a bias. So I'm looking at EURCAD with a seller's perspective. And if we head back over to the chart for a moment, EURCAD, pull it up. This is my trade that I'm in right now. And you can see I actually took that trade yesterday off of a pullback with that same knowledge that I just shared with you. So I shorted the EURCAD. We're down, or we've moved down since then. A nice little move. I have my stop loss just above today's high, or this swing high that we saw earlier today, I should say. If price comes back up, we'll stop out. We'll take that profit and be happy with it. I do have a trade which I've locked in. A locked-in profit there of $360. So good spot to be in. But here's the question. If you miss that move, where's a re-entry? Well, for me, if this thing does rally, if we see this thing break my stop loss and come all the way back up, I'm interested in potentially re-entering just around the same area. If we look left, we have good resistance there. So EURCAD is another watch list pair for me on the short side, right? Shorting the euro, going with the CAD, and overall a bias to the upside with the CAD. They've been raising rates. The oil market is generally doing pretty okay right now, which is a positive catalyst for the Canadian dollar and a number of other factors that we looked at earlier on. Now let's talk about an aggressive one. Here's CAD yen. So CAD yen, I want to be a buyer, but man, this one's tough. Because again, if we scroll out, this thing has been trending. So this is something I'd love to be long on, but of course I can't chase it. So I need a pullback. So I'm looking for a pullback. A bigger move here could potentially bring us back to levels like this. In which case, then I could start looking at a possible retest buy, right? That 50% looks pretty attractive. So we'll keep that on the back burner, but it's a bit of a ways away. So for those of you guys who are looking at more CAD pairs, you may be interested in something like CAD Swiss. And this is not going to help us either. Seems like we're still going higher on this one as well. So let's go ahead and talk about this one. Of course, I'm kicking myself because I was looking at this earlier in the week. I missed that rally off of a pullback. So of course, a little bit of hindsight bias, a little bit of shoulda, coulda, woulda, but that's okay. That's part of trading sometimes. You're going to miss the moves. But if this thing does give us a retest, potentially an entry here could be of interest. So if we do see, a retracement buy opportunity on CAD Swiss, maybe later this week, that would be of interest. Now, the most pressing one, in my opinion right now, would be USDCAD to the short side. Although the EdgeFinder is not giving us a strong reading, just from a momentum play, this one on a retest looks pretty interesting to me for more downside. I do also like CAD Swiss and CAD yen, but again, I can't really justify going long on something like that until we get a significant pullback. So one more pair that I'll talk about is Aussie CAD. And believe it or not, I actually have a short bias on this one as well. So let's go look at the EdgeFinder one more time and we'll pull up another, one of these secret hidden things. By the way, these are coming out for members who have the EdgeFinder. If you have the EdgeFinder, these will be released to you next week as part of a big update. That's kind of a hush-hush secret, but it's coming. So stay tuned for that. But anyways, if I take a look here, at Aussie CAD, strong sell bias on this pair as well. So this one gives me a good reasoning to look for potential shorts on a pullback. So COT data, the Aussie is very short bias. The CAD is just under 60%. 60% would give us a positive reading, by the way. So it's just about 60%. So CAD is interested, or COT data is telling us that banks are interested in CAD. So that's a positive thing. Interest rate divergence, there is a favoring towards the CAD here. Retail sentiment is not really strong enough to give us a strong reading. Seasonality this month tends to be slightly negative for Aussie CAD, which gives us a -1 reading and a positive reason to short the Aussie by the CAD, and finally a strong downward trend. So putting that all into play, we'll head back to the charts and we'll take a look at Aussie CAD. So let's get that mess off the screen. We'll take a look at this. So a pullback here, we already kind of saw this level come into play, this resistance point. That was, to me, in hindsight, the place to look for sells. If we get a retest of that, I will be looking for a possibility to enter AUDCAD to the short side with targets in mind at the previous low. I think that makes a lot of sense for continuation, but then you have bigger ideas on the CAD pairs. For example, let's say you get a 1, 2, 3, but then maybe there's even a 4, 5, 6 down to the previous low. I like this as a major target. Should we see a break of this low, there may be opportunities like this, where even if you miss this move here, perhaps there's a break and retest opportunity to look at on AUDCAD. So I like that personally. These are my personal setups looking at the CAD pairs right now. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to hit the thumbs up, subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Looks like it's time for your next trading video. Check out the videos here and here for more free trading content that should help you in your trading journey. We try and keep it real here, so make sure to subscribe for more content that is down to earth, realistic Forex trading content. See you in the next video.